Good morning. We look today at Job 20 and 21, and chapter 20 is Zophar's second speech to Job, and he starts out, he sounds a little bit testy to speak. He says, "Pay attention, my thoughts urge me to answer because of the agitation within me. I hear censure, and it insults me, and the spirit beyond my understanding." So Zophar is saying, I'm finding, Job, you're trying to shut us down, and we're trying to help you. We're trying to help you figure out what you did, and I'm upset that you're not listening to us. And listening is such an important thing. It's such a hard thing to do. And, you can say something, and 5 minutes later, the person you said it to doesn't have a clue you said it. But Zophar is a little upset that Job isn't acknowledging his guilt, that Job isn't listening to these three friends, that Job is somewhat insulting them for insisting that Job is a sinner, that he has done something against God. And Job continues to defend himself, and we'll find that in chapter 21 as Job, again, is in his defense. But chapter 19, Zophar's second speech here is a picture of the things that they felt that happened to the wicked, to the ungodly. Did you not know this from old, ever since mortals were placed upon the earth, that the exulting of the wicked is short, and that the joy of the godless is but a moment? Even though they mount high, their heads perish, they'll perish like, it was like they thought that the wicked people didn't live as long. The wicked people would be dashed. And this is what Jesus says. That those who believe in me will not perish. And so with those that don't believe in Jesus, they're gonna perish. And so the wicked, the wicked, aren't gonna have any future. They fly away like a dream. They will be chased away like a vision of the night. The eye that saw them will see them no more. It's the challenges, the misfortune, and everything that's going to come upon the wicked, according to so much of what they believed. With believing that God blessed the righteous and all of that. And so the whole of chapter 20 is virtually, Zophar telling Job that he must be guilty. Verse 27, the heavens will reveal their iniquity, and the earth will rise up against them. The possessions of their house will be carried away. All of these things happened to Job. He lost everything he had. He'd been rich and prosperous and happy and content, and boom, everything is gone. And this is just exactly what they believed would happen to the wicked. Chapter 21, Job again refutes this. He said, listen carefully to my words. And here again is that word listen. And I'm reminded that the word listen and silent have the same letters in them, just different ways. And so sometimes, we need to be silent before God so that we can listen to God that way too. Or we need to be, rather than needing to fill the space with noise, rattling on like a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. This isn't what we need to do either. We need to sometimes be silent and listen. And Job says, listen carefully, bear with me, and I will speak. And then after I have spoken, mock on. He said, I'm asking you to listen. I'm asking you to bear with me, but I'm pretty sure you're not going to. So then go ahead and mock on. Mock me some more. Just throw it back in my face that you don't believe me. And he says, as for me, is my complaint with mortals, or is it with God? Look at me, I am appalled. You lay your hand upon your mouth, and when I think of it, I'm dismayed and shuddering. It seizes my flesh. He's beside himself that these friends aren't more sympathetic and more understanding. And as I was reading this a little earlier, it made me think about in the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew 5, verse 45, Jesus says this. I'm going to read it to you. So that you may be children of your Father in heaven. For he makes his sun rise upon the evil and upon the good, and he sends rain upon the righteous and upon the unrighteous. You know, the rain falls on the good and on the evil, on the good and the bad. You know, God he doesn't withhold the rain. He doesn't make hail fall on one person's farm and not on another, because one is so much better than the other. This isn't what God does, and that's somewhere in Proverbs, I think those verses are too. And we'll start, we got a ways to finish Job and all the way through Psalms, but when we get to Proverbs, it seems to me that we find those words there too, that, you know, the rain falls upon the just and the unjust. And, you know, God doesn't withhold the rain. God doesn't withhold the sun. You know, he doesn't control those things for us that way. And it just, you know, in reading this with Zophar talking about all of the things that befall the wicked, you know, and tying Job in with that, and Job says, you know, but, you know, the weather, the world treats us all the same, just, unjust, believing in God or not. You know, and he talks about, you know, so Zophar was talking about all of the bad things that happen to the wicked, and Job talks about, okay, but why do the wicked live? Why do they reach old age? Why do they grow mighty in power? Why do they have children? Why are their houses safe from fear? Their bulls breed, their cattle have calves. You know, their children dance around with joy. I mean, the wicked live just as content and as blessed in many ways as the unwicked, as the just and the unjust, to use that, or the righteous and the unrighteous, the believer and the non-believer. You know, so I mean, Job is saying that you can't say that the wicked don't have good things in them. You know, don't have good things happen to them as well. And this is so true. I mean, sometimes, you know, some of the, well, I don't know how to say it, but some of the people that just don't seem to be good people at all in so many ways seem to have so much going for them. And maybe it's because they're slightly underhanded, or maybe it's just they're good at what they do. But, you know, Job is saying that you can't just blame everything that happens to somebody on whether they're good, and you can't give everything the good that happens to somebody credit because they got it because they're good, you know. And so it's just, you know, Job says, is not their prosperity, the wicked, is not their prosperity their own achievement? And you know, yeah, they work hard too. I mean, it's just, we all know people in the world that have no regard for God, or no regard for the church, or no belief or trust in God, or, you know, no even acknowledging that there is a God. But yet they're very successful. And Job is refuting Zophar's, the wicked get all of this bad happen to them. Job is saying, but the wicked also have a lot of good going for them. They have many advantages, or they have, you know, you can't discount the blessings. And that's, you know, in the Bible, in the New Testament, you know, when, you know, Jesus talks about, you know, who is your neighbor, you know, and Jesus treats the Samaritan woman with as much love and compassion as anyone else. And the woman at Tyre, and the widow at Nain. I mean, he doesn't withhold it. And the woman caught in adultery, he welcomes her just as much as anybody else. So these, you know, we cannot say that God blesses or curses somebody because they are good or not good. And this is what Job is continuing to say here as he refutes Zophar's, all this stuff happens to people because they're wicked. Job is saying, you can't say that, because the wicked also have just as much good. Some of the wicked have just as much good going for them as well as anyone else as well. And these two chapters that we read today, Job ends with this: how then will you comfort me with empty nothings? There is nothing left of your answers but falsehood. How will you comfort me with nothings, with empty nothings. You know, and this is, there isn't any comfort in a nothing. The comfort that we have as humans is knowing that even though we are sinful, that when we come to God and we confess our sins, that God forgives us and welcomes us. And that is so much more than an empty nothing. God shows his love for us as he sent his son Jesus to die. Think about John 3:16. That's not a nothing. God's love for you is really something.